Greetings, netizens of YouTube. By now, it's likely that developments in the Skeptic community or anti-SJW community during Vidcon, the online video conference held in California, have come to your attention. Sargon and Laci Green have kissed and made up. Some progressive YouTubers broke bread with antis. Anita Sarkeesian called Sargon a garbage human, and persona non grata, Milo Yiannopoulos, desperate to resuscitate his career, wants to interview Laci Green, much to the delight of certain e-celebs and shitlords of the interwebs. Giddy from their perceived success and chastened by the idea that the internet is actually made up of real people who might be worthy of respect, we are now being told that the Skeptic community post-Vidcon wants to engage constructively with SJWs or advocates of social justice. That many content creators want to put the pwnage culture and petty insults that are a feature of anti-SJW videos behind them.
Coming out of Vidcon, after listening to speakers such as Boogie, the kindest and, as far as I'm concerned, most gentle and wonderful creature on the internet, it's kind of rearranged my perspectives on a number of things. Seeing faces and real names and real people put to the, I guess you could call them avatars for the ideals that we've been sort of battling against this whole time, it put a different perspective on things. The old school takedown response videos that even I've done and a lot of channels do, it's not something I really think I want to be doing anymore. Not just because it's, a matter of being shitty to other people, which is, kind of a big part of it, but also because so often in these zinger sort of gotcha pwnage takedown videos, so many of us oftentimes miss golden opportunities to really address bad or shitty arguments or ideas. It would be really good if we could just all start to try and be a little better to everyone. Maybe we all need to just grow up a bit.
There was a whole bunch of feminist social justice warrior types, and they were not being dismissive of us. And we need to actually listen to each other, and that was impressive. I was very happy with it. It was eye-opening, the experience in general. It put a lot of things into perspective for me. It not only humanized our enemies, our opponents in this intellectual battle, but it put a face to the people who actually consume our content.
We've opened up the fucking door, right? We have to stop calling them cunts once in a while, so all right.
I mean, I'm just as upset as the rest of them.
Believe me.
Okay,
believe me.
It's I enjoy the comedy side, which is gonna have to take a little bit of a back seat. But if you're talking to a person face to face, and yeah, they're human beings too, which is what we've been trying to say.
As you can imagine, I have a lot to say about this, but before I put the case for cynicism of this approach, and my cynicism is born through years of watching anti-SJW videos and reading hateful comments, I think it's important to talk personal philosophy. I'm about to get hippie, so have a bucket at the ready. I strongly believe that humanity is a whole, that somehow in the great scheme of the universe we are all joined together as a single cell, that the hatred and negativity we feel and then project harms the individual and the whole. I won't labour the point, suffice to say that in my soul I'm actually a unifier who believes in peace and compassion. Bridging the gap between my cynicism and my desire for the whole of humanity, later in this video I make a number of reasonable requests from the anti-SJW community in case their offer is genuine. But before then, let's get cynical. Regardless of my beliefs, we live in a world that doesn't reward peace, compassion and positivity. If you look at the professions that require these qualities, you will notice they barely exist, or those professions are underpaid. The same principle operates on this part of YouTube. Drama, us versus them, negativity and demonization sells. Profit is good, whether it's from AdSense, Patreon or Candid. I've worked in a number of jobs in a number of countries and have a clear understanding of the way it works. Most of us will be forced to work jobs that we hate in order to be paid. We will be forced to tell lies or make compromises by working for companies whose practices or managers we wish we could reject. It is this understanding, or lens, that I'm using to examine the anti-SJW community on YouTube. A community that is popular or profitable enough to be used by or to attract those who seek profit and lulls, without regard to compassion or positive advocacy. Until now, at least. But what of SJWs, you say? Surely they are subject to the same motivations. With the exclusion of a tiny number of corporate or feminist super channels, they are not. In real life, the vast majority of the YouTube social justice community represents the real-life equivalent of voluntary work, believing in a cause and being paid travel expenses and lunch. Even if we are not better people, as many of us believe ourselves to be, having the interest of the oppressed in mind, the SJWs just don't have the audience numbers to attract profit seekers. It's a similar story with those I call out-group skeptics. It isn't lucrative to be skeptical of everybody on a platform that is so fragmented. As has been noted by numerous members of the skeptic community over the past 6 to 12 months, there has been a lack of material for their content creators. A number of what they would call bedroom feminists have either been driven from YouTube after being mobbed by large anti-SJW channels, or have left after realizing that there is no constructive debate to be had. It leaves anti-SJW content creators, better known for pwning individuals rather than dissecting and rebutting ideas with source material, struggling for content. As a result, there have been multiple live streams with the same old faces agreeing with one another and collectively laughing at what they consider to be the stupidity of those they see as their political opponents, aka the circle jerk live stream. In the absence of supervillains like Anita Sarkeesian, whose moment had passed, or so we thought, and let's face it, one can only do so many Steve Shives videos, things have been even grimmer for the anti-SJWs. So, some months ago, a bright spark decided that the vegan community might prove to be ripe fodder for pwnage-style videos. It's a community that ticks a lot of the right boxes in terms of audience and subject material, but it's too small to produce consistent material in the way that so-called SJWs have done in the past. None of this is anything new. Those who have been around on YouTube long enough will recognize how this so-called marketplace of ideas has become saturated with those proclaiming themselves to be atheists debunking Christians. In the end, the Christians retreated from debate or melted away from YouTube. As some atheists turned to making videos about social change, a larger group emerged, which became the YouTube skeptic community as we know it today. The latter spent their time attacking the former, and any individual online or real person advocating social justice or a progressive agenda. More recently, as has been mentioned on this channel and elsewhere, there has been a split within the skeptic community. The recent departure of Thunderfoot from the community is the most obvious example, but others such as Dave Sherratt have been cast out or blocked by certain e-celebs who could not tolerate the same kind of criticism or ridicule they give to SJWs on a regular basis. People have quit the skeptic community for numerous reasons, but above all due to its distinct lack of skepticism and the in-group out-group model that they felt was highly hypocritical. The way in which skeptics were willing to surrender their free speech principles when paid thousands of dollars by corporations, as they did with the Candid debacle, was another huge bone of contention. Amid this crisis for views and content within the anti-SJW community, the purported red-pilling of Laci Green was an absolute godsend. Short-term, it provided big-name content for the community, and longer-term, it would help the formation of a narrative that feminists were defecting to the anti-SJWs. It could provide the illusion that the war against social justice was being won. This was the situation pre-Vidcon. The event was an opportunity for anti-SJW content creators to establish real-life relationships and to discuss how best to pursue their mutual interest. Don't misunderstand. I'm not suggesting Machiavellian plotting and smoky rooms. It was more informal than that, and I'm sure that some content creators were not aware enough to understand that they had been acting through self-interest all along. That the offering of an alleged olive branch to SJWs is merely a continuation of that. an act of self-preservation. So the idea was to suggest that the unproductive ridicule and malice would be reined in, while SJWs would be expected to answer their call to engage in debate. At the same time, proponents of social justice that were making reasonable sounds could be potentially welcomed into the fold, a la Laci. If enough feminists, or SJWs, were to answer the call, the narrative that the anti-SJWs are winning the ideological battle could be confirmed. Another joker card in the pocket was to psych out or provoke Anita Sarkeesian, the most lucrative story in the history of anti-SJWism, who was losing prominence. Any strong reaction from Sarkeesian at Vidcon would cause her to re-emerge as a popular figure of hate for anti-SJW content creators. And so it came to be. Hundreds or potentially thousands more dollars in the pockets of the e-celeb content creators, and plenty of beer money for the bottom feeders. It is entirely possible that some or even most anti-SJW content creators believe that they now genuinely want a positive change and will attempt to create a more conducive environment for debate and examination of the issues. However, it remains to be seen whether they have the creativity to come up with different ideas to keep their audiences entertained, or whether they will be willing to put in the extra effort needed to provide a more nuanced or informative approach in their videos. This entire approach is interesting because it's based under the assumption that content creators are able to influence their audiences. If correct, the audiences will stay with their favourite YouTube skeptic content creators without the cheap pwnage, superficial insults and lightweight arguments. Of course, this would somewhat contradict the view stated by many anti-SJWs that YouTubers don't have influence on the behaviour of their audiences. The anti-SJW audience itself may be impacted in a positive way, or the out-group skeptics might consider rejoining the ship, or even some social justice advocates might take a measure of interest. That is what they would be counting on, at least. More likely is that views will drop, and then each individual anti-SJW content creator will have to decide whether it's worth trying to produce videos that take 3 times the effort for less AdSense and a drop-off of Patreon money. The worst affected would be those who have provided continuous drama and pwnage style videos, since this cheap entertainment is what their subs and Patreon donors signed on for. So I don't expect those content creators to make any changes. This could create something of a divide between those at the top and those wanting to be at the top. Bottom line is that I expect that some anti-SJW content creators to be given a rude awakening. They will discover, if they didn't know it already, that they have created their own gilded cage. That they are in fact not producing content for themselves. They are pandering and only producing content they feel their subscribers want. The tail and the dog may be wagging each other, but as long as the tail pays the dog's wages, the tail has the upper hand. The profit motive is why I have little faith that these changes will stick. The anti-SJW market is flooded with content creators, and like all markets that are oversupplied, profits are diminishing. What's worse, many of them are selling identical goods. Some producers will inevitably go out of business or decide to close up shop. But the thing that I found incredible about some of the comments made by anti-SJW content creators post Vidcon is how they describe upon attending a panel or meeting one another and some fans, triggering a realization that there are real people with real human emotions behind the monikers or usernames. People who are potentially vulnerable if dogpiled or treated cruelly. It staggers me, honestly totally boggles my mind that some haven't been able to appreciate that every YouTuber, Twitter user or online interaction is with a real person that feels. What kind of bubble do you have to live in to not understand this? That it takes a real-life meetup to convince people to treat others with a measure of dignity, even if they hold opposing views. No hyperbole, this baffles me. I understand the culture of shitposting and pwnage. But I'd always felt that people understood that they are ridiculing or shitting on real-life people, but did it anyway, because they found it funny or would benefit them in some way. It turns out now that these YouTube skeptics just didn't get it. Perhaps this is a way of justifying past unacceptable behaviour, and I shouldn't take this excuse seriously. And yet I suspect that some are genuinely suffering from cognitive dissonance. So bearing in mind, if you pardon the pun, my cynicism and my contradictory, somewhat romantic ideals about unity, what would it take for me to believe this offer for engagement is genuine? First of all, insults. I'm not about to say no insults. I'm saying that there is a difference between calling somebody a tosser or a prick and insulting somebody with the intent to hurt or humiliate them by deliberately referring to their physical appearance or encouraging others to do so. Even then there is scope. If an anti is dealing with a Kevin Logan or somebody like myself, you can probably get away with worse insults in jest. But ableist or transphobic insults are immature, unoriginal, and may genuinely hurt somebody. Why would any decent person want to hurt somebody? Secondly, reputable sources. If you are going to provide informative videos, using sources in videos like the Daily Mail, Daily Express or Heat Street shows either laziness or a lack of intellectual capacity. If you want to talk about serious issues with us, let's debate properly using academic or respected sources, not the gutter press. This may seem like my dictating terms of the debate, but it's more than that. If you have respected sources that contradict a progressive viewpoint, you would be doing a service to skepticism and progressives in sharing it. Knowing the subject beyond the usual talking points is its own reward. Thirdly, likes and retweets on Twitter. Part of the problem on YouTube and Twitter is isolated communities. This is the final frontier. Like and retweet more videos from people outside of your community. If this becomes a habit, I'm willing to bet that communities will be less divided longer term. Doing this, by the way, also takes some power away from larger YouTubers who like or retweet content and expect loyalty from those YouTube content creators in return. It reduces tribalism. If that isn't enough, look at it from the perspective of self-interest. Inevitably, some in your camp will drop away, believing you to be cucks. Recommending reasonable individuals producing good content outside anti-circles will likely be reciprocated, potentially leading to a single YouTube community that listens to arguments based on their merits rather than divided communities set against each other. Lastly, skepticism. You have to understand that anti-SJWism is by its very nature not skepticism. Sure, you have the right to expose what you believe to be SJWism to criticism, but a skeptic will expose all ideas to criticism. A skeptic should analyze his own motivations, put his own ideas to scrutiny. If you want to identify as a skeptic, then behave like one. If you want to identify or behave as an anti-SJW, it suggests that you are implacably opposed to advocates of social justice, and implies that there is little to discuss. Some who do consider themselves as anti-SJWs, when actually exploring their views, I've noticed, do not oppose aspects of social justice. Why then approach debate suggesting otherwise? And why give heart to those that have always opposed societal reform? Pandering to a section of the audience. We content creators know our audiences. We know what we don't say is almost as important as what we do say. Most of us understand dog whistle phrases. We read comments. Regardless of whether you consider yourself to be on the left or a centrist, isn't it time to be clear about your views on the right? Making 50 videos about TYT, Buzzfeed, Steve Shives, members of the social justice community and feminists, etc., and then 2 critical videos about Davis Arini or some MGTOW dude attracts a certain audience. Hell, most of you kept silent about Milo until his fall from grace, and some still defend him. Anti-atheism, transphobia, and skepticism be damned, since none of it applies to Yiannopoulos. Let's not insult the intelligence of those watching in suggesting that you don't know what you're doing. These are not unreasonable requests, and it's true that not all quote-unquote SJWs will agree that I'm going far enough. Some don't believe that debate can bring anything new to the table, and going on past record, I don't blame them. I understand and respect that position, but I suspect a fair number of them are like me, romantics who have been burned. They want positive change. They want to believe. After the hatefulness, they need genuine goodwill. It's not for you to hold lectures now claiming that just because you've begun to change, it's the SJWs who are being intolerant or immature by not wanting to communicate.
Riley, we're all saying her now. So, and now she's being a closed-minded. Fuck you if you now you believe me. She's the closed-minded one. Now, we look at someone like that who doesn't want to debate us, and what do we think? Immature, aggressive. Do we want to be the exact same thing? No. We have our doors open to talk to Riley.
As for me, I'm personally prepared to like and retweet sourced or even non-sourced well-argued content if it's reasonably balanced and not partisan. I urge others who create left-wing or progressive content to uphold this standard. As stated in a previous video, I've liked and retweeted Kraut and Thunderfoot videos recently. It's not tribalism that's stopping me from liking more videos from the anti-side. I struggle finding well-researched anti-SJW videos to recommend. I'm also willing to admit my own human excesses and mistakes made, and I know damn well exactly what they are. It doesn't matter if it's thrown back in my face, some of it is likely deserved. Occasionally you will admit to being human and exaggerating, and somebody will lie and misrepresent your honesty. Who cares? Playing with a straightish bat is a far better feeling than behaving like a crooked politician who is trying to catch out his political opponents in a supposed culture war. You want this to work. Just saying you want to talk isn't good enough. The SJWs are not going to play ball so you can get a short-term boost in your view count. If you are sincere in your position, be clear about what it means longer term. It will mean the eventual destruction of your community and the emergence of a larger, somewhat unified political YouTube community. It may be that new and thus larger audiences decide to engage on this platform. You yourself, if you attended Vidcon, saw the potentially massive numbers involved. If our part of YouTube was less toxic, subs from other communities may seep over. Some giant YouTube content creators very likely avoid endorsing the YouTube Skeptic community because of their bad reputation. Perhaps you felt this at Vidcon, and this is another motivating factor. I'll step off my pulpit now. Like, comment, share this video, or respond for fuck's sake. And if you disagree with me, think about why you disagree. Is it because you aren't really willing to change and to admit when you're wrong? If so, what is there really to talk about?
No, fuck their feelings. Fuck the social justice community. There is no dialogue to be had with them. They don't want dialogue. The next time one of you little bitches steps out of line, I will do anything I can to hurt your feelings. Let's God, the next time any one of you sends me anything that even looks like an insult, I'm going to report you. I'm going to keep doing it. And I'm going to tell you to your face that I'm going to do it.